1059 The Region, always a pleasure to speak with Teresa Di Felice from the CAA Central Ontario, to be exact. Hi, Teresa, how are you?
Thanks, Kevin. Good to be back. I'm good, thank you.
We talk about one of my favorite topics all the time, and that is traffic, road safety. And because we are heading into back to school time, it's the perfect time for us to talk about back to school road safety.
I know we're all cringing right now because we're talking back to school and it's like, where did the summer go? But yes, in just 1 week, it's going to be upon us. And it is a really important and serious issue.
There are two highlights that if you take away nothing else from this conversation, there are two things that I want everyone to be able to take away. Slow down. And remember, you are a role model. And the reason I use just these two as the big takeaways is going to become more obvious as we start talking. But let's start with the slow down. It seems simple, it seems easy, and it could save a whole lot of heartache.
Speeding is one of the most common issues that parents complain about in their children's school zone. So it's a mix of congestion, like there's a lot of vehicles, but there's also a lot of like flyby traffic that's happening, that people are going too fast. They're trying to get in and get out. And it is a serious issue because you've got, kids can be really unpredictable, especially in those first few weeks. Mm-hmm. They're excited to see their friends. They're getting back into a new routine. They might be running late. They got to head to a practice after school. And so, this unpredictability of what our, vulnerable road users or little people might be thinking, and the rush that parents are in can really exasperate a situation.
The other thing, too, is people may be rushing for those amber lights now, like hitting the gas when they see the light turn amber. With school back, it's just time to remember those lights are timed in such a way that you are able to stop safely. So you shouldn't be hitting a gas heading towards the intersection anywhere.
Correct. An amber light on a stop, on a street light is telling you to slow down and come to a stop, not speed up and try and make that light. And I know we feel like we're in a rush and people are back at work, but again, especially if you've got your little ones in the car, and as you said, that role model, they're picking up from you. Mm-hmm. One day they'll be a driver, or they may be a driver. They're picking up those habits from you. So the best thing you can do is perform yourself the way you want them to be a driver and be safe on the road when they get to that stage. And with the cars around them. So, right, you want them, you don't want cars whizzing past when kids think that they're able to start to make it and get through themselves.
Yeah, because, we don't know if a kid is sees the light is amber and starts to cross, thinking their light is about to turn green, you're not giving it a second thought. That's wrong. They shouldn't be doing that. And in a moment, I want to talk to you about training your kids, road training your kids. But it doesn't matter if a child does something that is wrong. It doesn't matter, because if they get hurt, that's all that matters. So you have to be prepared for their mistakes.
Correct. As a driver, you hold the bulk of the responsibility in your hand. You're driving a vehicle. It has a lot of weight to it. You bear the biggest brunt of the responsibility. Left-hand turns are some of the biggest causes for collisions and crashes with people and injuries. Speeding, obviously, the higher the speed, the more severe the injury, or possibly resulting in death. And so these are why we harp on these things. Good practice good behaviors, slow down. Speed, a lot of communities are now dropping the speed to 30 kilometers an hour, and parents support that because everyone's recognizing that, there's a lot of vulnerable, little people running around, and we need to take extra caution in these locations.
School zones are well marked, and I don't think there's an exception to that rule. And if there is, you should call your local counselor and get that changed. But school zones are well marked. So what's it going to save you by doing 60K in a school zone as opposed to 30K? It's going to save you, 10, 15 seconds, and no child's life is worth that.
Absolutely correct. We're seeing more and more community groups, school group, parent groups, schools themselves, and the municipalities and the police asking for automated speed enforcement, right? They can't be in every school zone. So the other thing that's happening is relying on technology to send a message. and have these boxes put in your school zone to force that behavior as well. So if you don't do it voluntarily, there's going to be a way to force you to do it. And so we should just all practice the right behaviors.
Let's talk about school parking lots. Even though they're not public roadways, and even though the Highway Traffic Act has very little to do with private property and school parking lots, that can be an extremely dangerous place. It can be like the 401 at rush hour.
For sure. Most parking lots are actually dedicated for staff. There are some places that maybe were built at a time where they could put a little bit of extra space for drop-offs. Ideally, it would be great to have a drop-off zone in every school. That's just not realistic. Most schools were built at a time that we didn't have as many automobiles on the road as we do now. There was also a time where more parents walked their kids to school, or allowed kids to walk to school themselves or bike to school. This huge reliance on driving kids to school has really upped the number of vehicles and the number of potential incidents that are happening. And parking lots, are confusing places at the best of time. Before a school bell rings or after a school gets let out, it's even worse.
Let's talk about some alternatives then to actually having to physically bring your child to and from school.
Yeah, there's a lot of great ideas. First of all, what happened to walking and biking to school? A lot of parents don't feel safe, and they don't feel safe because of the traffic conditions, the volume of cars, the speed of cars, the amount of parents who are just stopping their cars in the middle of the road or double parking. And so, this is where we're saying, let's practice those road safety behaviors and get our kids walking to school. It's better for their brains. It's better for their learning. It's better for the community and the safety of the kids around the school. And so you can park your car further away if you really feel that you're on your way to work and it's the most, efficient thing to do. But park your car farther away and teach your kids those few blocks of a walk. School buses in Ontario are now going to be equipped with both flashing amber and red lights. So similar to a stoplight, the amber is telling you to slow down. You're going to have to come to a stop because that school bus has come to a stop. And when those red lights are flashing, you cannot pass a school bus. Flashing red lights, or even when they put their arm out, means it is illegal to pass a school bus. And this comes with hefty fines if you try and get away with it anyway and get caught. There are demerit points that are attached to it. But ultimately, what we want is for the kids to be safe. So don't pass a stopped school bus. It's the simple message.
If it frustrates you, which it frustrates some people if they're on a school bus route, then don't drive during those times. You know what? Leave the car parked somewhere between 3 and 4:30. If it frustrates you that much, because I know some people will pass on the sidewalk. I've seen that.
Yes, it is really scary. It is scary to understand the number of people who are ignoring the warning light systems on school buses and just blowing through. And, this is disastrous. It is why Ontario finally passed both color lights. Like, if it wasn't a message enough before just to see the red, we've got the amber now. There's no excuse. You are going to have to stop. The more unsafe situation you create by trying to pass it, the longer buses have to stop, because they're trying to navigate, not just letting kids off the bus, but making sure all the traffic has come to a stop. We need to just obey the rules of the road. It's that simple. And if you need to leave earlier, leave earlier. If you want to find different ways to get around your neighborhood, if you're not dropping off a child at school, find different ways to do that, different routes that don't take you through a school zone. Because again, these are unpredictable locations, and, lots of little people running around. We don't want tragedies. We've had those in Toronto and elsewhere in the GTA, in Ontario, period. They're horrific. And, no one wants to deal with that situation. No one wants to hear that situation. So be part of the solution versus being part of the problem.
Lots of resources for teachers and for parents and even for students on your website.
Absolutely. If you go to www.ca Casco, CAASCO.com. You can find everything that I've talked about and more around road safety, teaching road safety to children. If you're interested in a school safety patrol program at your school, there's info there. And just sort of topics about the school buses, all these issues, everything's available on our website.
So slow down. Remember, you're a role model. Thanks once again for this, Teresa.
My pleasure. Let's have a safe back to school. Thanks a lot.